Hi Lego fans, welcome back to the channel. Now it's been a little bit, but I said I was going to talk about my MILS plates in comparison to other options. And that's what we're going to do today. So stick around and let's discuss this. I'm Jeremy and you're watching Sherwood Forest Bricks. Alright, when it comes to road systems for the Lego's town system, we basically have three options. And if I'm missing anything, shoot me a comment down below, but I'm pretty sure there's only three options. Option number one is to use the original base plate road system, circa 1980s, 90s, all the way up until the 2010s. These road systems were a big part of the Lego town system. So that would be option one. If you have these, acquire these, or seek out and find these, you can still utilize them because, frankly, they still exist. You just can't get new ones anymore. Or you could update to the new Lego system of roads with set number 60304. And this one has 121 pieces, I think it was, 112 pieces. And you could build your own road system utilizing the new, what is that? The 16 by 16 by 2 plate modified. There's also an 8 by 16 in there as well. I thought it was a tile, but it's more of a plate. Anyways, you could definitely build this. In fact, there are many town or city systems, city sets that have these plates already part of them. They've already established that they're going to go forward with this, and these are gone, right? Discontinued. You can't get them anymore. Sayonara. Or if this doesn't suit your fancy and you're not going to buy outdated equipment, then you have the option of using a MILS system like I do here in my city. So let's break down, get them all built, and let's talk about them.
Road plates were first introduced in 1978 and since then have undergone several design and color changes. However, none have been as radical as the one that's being made currently, when the traditional 32 by 32 baseplate was replaced with a more robust and modular system. Many of the larger city sets will include the new system. The system is based around new 16 by 16 and 8 by 16 modified plates, which are 2 plates high. They have 2 by 4 cutouts in the center and 1 by 4 around the edge to enable them to be connected together. The 8 by 16 in this set has white pedestrian crossing lines printed across it. The undersides have anti-stud connections, which of course is not the case with the thin, flexible 32 by 32 base plates. A new 8 by 4 curved slope is used to transition from the road to the carpet or table. Several 2 by 4 tiles in the set are printed with white lines to match those on the crossing. They are also used to create a broken line down the center of the road. MILS equals Modular Integrated Landscaping System. This standard has been developed by members of the LUG community for collaborative diorama displays. Among its key features is that it is simple and flexible and can be used with many different Lego themes. The MILS standard is primarily based on 32 by 32 base plates. However, intermediate sizes of 16 by 32 can be used as long as its terrain features share a common profile with adjacent modules. Ground level is 1 brick, 3 plates, above the base plate reference level. The MILS standard describes terrain and landforms very well and shows many inspiring examples of landscape modules. Many layouts will require some form of roadway. The roadways must seamlessly integrate with adjacent landforms, include infrastructure such as sidewalks for areas next to buildings, and lastly, integration with railway modules. The system shown here is called multi-road. It is a system of modular components specifically designed for making MILS compatible roadways. It has 3 main components. 1. MILS compliant base modules of 32 by 32. 2. Generic roadway sections representing left and right lanes. 3. Interchangeable 5-plate strips mounted to the left, center, and right sections of the roadway. These strips allow for the customization of the roadway appearance to represent almost any region-specific roadway markings.
Now, it's really hard when we make comparisons between these three items that we're talking about. And of course, we're talking about original base road plates. We're talking about MILS plates. We're talking about the new road system that Lego came with 60304, and a variety of different city sets, etc. But we have to compare apples to apples. And unfortunately, these really aren't all apples. So this here, as you can see, is original base plate. And believe it or not, this is probably from 1985. So this is a significantly old piece. You can still get these. Obviously, you cannot buy brand new ones, but this is an original. And then they have other versions. They have green, they have larger sidewalk, and they have a this road. But essentially, they're all the same. They either have 6 or 7, 6, and I think there's even 5 stud sides on the latest version, and the road. So. But this is, it's a 32 by 32 base plate, 10 by 10 inches ish, and it has 2 lanes of traffic. And again, like I said, they all have the white striping in the middle, which isn't a thing for the United States in all areas. And then the sidewalk is outlined here with green, like a gutter or the curb, and then the sidewalk itself. So that is an original base plate. All right, so basically I just built 60304 as per the instructions. I didn't really have a use for this particular set, so I just wanted to build it for this particular review. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to utilize it this way. Obviously, these can be oriented in any shape or fashion that you desire. And of course, if you expand on this, if this was to be how you utilized roads in your city, then, of course, you could add on to this with many other sets. In fact, there's lots of city sets that actually come with these road bases now. But overall, it's about, what is that? 56 by, so about 56 by 56 square, right? So it's bigger than any single base plate, any single road plate, and you get a lot of different accessories with it. Now, all right, but if you're in the US, obviously we don't have white lines in the center of all of our roads. We don't have speed bumps next to, we probably should though, have speed bumps next to our crosswalks, and we don't utilize the round speed limit sign as shown here. So this is very European, which of course you can modify. Lego is forever able to be modified to suit the user. So you definitely could do that. Now, it does come with stoplights that are reminiscent of what we have in the United States. And then the traffic lights, they are the same, it's similar as well. So you could make this without being too European, adapt to an American city. So I don't see that as a downfall. It's just something you have to take into consideration. These particular pieces, the tiles with the white stripe, they don't come in yellow. So you would have to buy aftermarket or put a sticker on a regular tile, or you have to do something else and to get a yellow line. But it also came with the green plates, and it came with some bushes and some flowers and such. So so for I think this was $19.99 for 60304, I believe. So for that price, it's not too bad. And of course, we have to talk about our MILS plate. Now, it's probably a little bit different MILS plate than you're used to seeing, because most people, when they build MILS plates, they are just a single brick high with a plate or a tile on top. Whereas in my configuration, you have 2 bricks, a plate, and a tile. So you get extra height because of how I do my roads, and so there's a difference there as well. Now, this is also 32 by 32. You get a road. Now, I do a 2-high curb, which is probably, nothing in Lego is per scale, but it's a little too tall. But I like the dimension that it provides. And then I also, on mine, have a bike path, and then I have a yellow striped line, because my city exists in the United States, and that's how I want to build my roads now. You could obviously build your lanes however you see fit. You could do, because this is basically 3 plates in here, you could do a solid yellow and then a dashed yellow so that you have a passing. You could do double solid so that you have no passing. You're going to have a dash yellow, and then, or you could do dash white. There's lots of different, because this is basically snot technique here with the center and the bike lane and the edging. This is all snot technique, so you could do whatever you really wanted to with a single plate width. And I just happen to have a solid white line for the gutter, and then I have the blue bike path with, you know, white lines on both sides, and the yellow line dashed in the center time. So basically that is what I have for that. And then I end up with 4 on this side and then 3 on this side because of, I offset one side because of the bike lane. All right, so it's only fair when we compare them as far as side by side, actually side by side. So we have 60304, and then we have a old base plate from the 80s, and then we have my MILS plates as I do. Now, right off the bat, a lot more involved in these two than this one. And try as I might, I could not find a vehicle from this era. The closest I could come with is I found this this car from, I believe this was from 2010, 2011, from the car Caravan. And this is not 4 wide, it's basically a 6 wide, but the car itself is 5 wide. If I were to take these wheels off, you know, put a different wheel set on there, it would be a little bit narrower. But you can see on this setup, this car is actually 2 wide for the lanes, and as is this truck from the 90s as well, which trucks are wider, but that's okay. But so the early 2000s here, we have the Lego yellow truck, and we have the new one I haven't built yet, but you know, if you recall, this was around back in the day. But anyways, so that obviously is one issue, is that the original, back when these came out, all vehicles were 4 wide and they fit perfectly. Now these don't fit at all. They're very tight on the lanes, and frankly they don't look good. And even now, say we have the new vehicles, these are even wider. So you couldn't really build a city effectively with the old plates because of this new change from Lego on how wide we want to go. So that is obviously one reason why these base plates are not as good as their brick-built versions or the newer versions, because frankly, Lego has decided to make their vehicles wider. They made this obsolete. So that is one characteristic. Now we can show you on these, right? So this is my version, right, on the MILS, and they both fit perfectly within their lane. It's not so bad because my lanes are essentially 9 wide, and the widest vehicles that I have, even, you know, with the mirrors, are 8 wide. So still a tight fit, but they fit nonetheless. Actually, it's funny that this Land Rover and this semi-truck are basically the same size. But anyways. And then let's compare it to 60304 or the new lane system. And, you know, the car fits okay there as well, but the Land Rover is pretty wide because these are 16 wide, and vehicles are almost 8 wide. So that is, you know, it's barely making do. Better than the old road plates, don't get me wrong. If you were going to go with something and you wanted to stick with pure Lego from Lego, this is where you have to go to, because the base plates have basically been, you know, gone. These aren't, they've been really discontinued because of, they don't meet the criteria. So right off the bat, if I was in a position where I didn't have any road system whatsoever, I would not go out of my way to try and find these because of the issues we'd already talked about. One, the vehicle's lanes are small, they are relatively flat, you can't change as much. But, you know, starting out in the 80s, this was all we had, and this is where my collection started. And I don't have any of the newer versions where they are wider lanes. In fact, I have a newer version that actually has more land on the outside than the actual road. So the road surface itself from green to green is exactly the same, but the sidewalks are teeny tiny. And you know, even if we were to take a little man out, right, or a person, and this happens to be a man, you know, so we don't want to go narrower on our sidewalks. So that, in my opinion, just rules these out. Now, if you had a whole bunch and you could make something with it, I have not found them to be utilized very well in a MILS style construction because of how the front and how the structure of the inside, and I can pull one of these up real quick. And sometimes don't come up very easy. So because of how this piece attaches in there, you can see that, right? That isn't conducive for using one of these road plates. So now, if you were going to do a straight and a straight, right? The only issue you really have with how I do my MILS plates is this center row of tiles, because that is what this the snot bracket here that sets right on that tile. So if you were to figure out a way that not to have the tile, because what happens when you put this on a road plate is it's gonna sink because it's not being supported there in the middle. So if you were able to figure out how to come up with one plate height difference here for this piece itself, then you could utilize older plates like this. But I have yet to find that to be easy. It's just easier for me to go and buy a green base plate for $7.99 or find them on sale, or I've actually got them in collections that I buy out too. So that being said, rules out utilizing the original base plates from the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. Now, I don't know when they got rid of the base plates, but it wasn't really too long ago, but they've been out of favor for quite some time. So that brings us basically down to a MILS style road construction and the 60304 style with a new road system. Now, we already talked about lane width, that these are barely meet the criteria of the newer vehicles. I should use a new vehicle, right? Compared to my MILS plate standard. And some people, when they build their MILS plates, their lanes are narrower. So I can't say that 100% going to a MILS style construction is going to save your lane width, because this is designated by me. I'm the one who decided how wide this needs to be, because I use the snot technique where 5 plates high is actually 2 studs wide. So that is all controlled by me. If I were able to take this lane down smaller, I could take out 2, and I couldn't do it with how I do these pieces, but if you were to make it a 6 wide tile assembly in here instead of an 8 wide, then your lanes would actually be the same width as these with the striping and such. So depending on how you build your MILS road systems, apples to apples, they may be the same width. So I can't say that rules out this, because these are still too narrow. However, the 60304, the new road system, do not have a sidewalk. And whereas a MILS style system is going to allow you to build a sidewalk. Now you can see on this side, I obviously have a sidewalk, and this side I've decided not to do a sidewalk because I want to have a green strip in here. And this is actually, on this side of it is where the monorail system would go. In fact, I do have, let's just pause for a minute. I do have a MILS plate here where I do have sidewalks on both sides and no greenery or no studs to build at all. So there's no studs on this thing, and it's exactly 32 by 32, of course. And I still have the white stripe line here, which is fine for side roads, I suppose. But if you were on a main road, you definitely would have yellow. But so you can see we both have sidewalks. So that is definitely something that going to a MILS system over the new road systems allows you to build in a sidewalk as well. However, we always have to, add that in there as a caveat. You can 100% build in sidewalks on this system by adding plates, and you could come up the same as I do on my side, and you could actually extend your road lane out even further with gray tiles and then you could have tile, a single plate high and then a tile high. So you could build in sidewalks with additional brick, so that this system is expandable to meet that need as well. But right out of the box, it doesn't have one. All right, so now that we've talked about the road lane size and the sidewalk and the ability to have the greenery and stuff like that, let's just go down that path of, I already have some city buildings and I want to utilize one of these road systems. I'm going to make the decision where I'm going to go with building either a MILS road system like I have here, or buying additional plate or 60304s and expanding my city this way. Now, if you are already buying city sets that have these new elements in them, that makes perfect sense to go with something like this, because it just expands on what you already have. But if you are like me and you have other sets, and let's go get one. And of course, I have to pick a modular system or a modular building because, why not? That's what I have my city for. So if I already have modular buildings, and which are on a base plate, as you can see, there's a base plate under there, and then they add tiles on top of it. So I have a tile system as well. If I were to have this, where would I go, right? Now I could totally utilize this road system. I would have to add on here to make an even larger sidewalk, or I could actually make a boulevard out of this between a road system, ignoring this. And there's no way to take this off. I suppose you could paint it, but so I could utilize this system and go straight to here, because all I have to do is add tiles here and it's the same height. But if I buy this new road system, and I'm gonna, for the sake of this video, I'm just gonna take this apart really quick so that we can just have one element in conversation. This is actually taller than our modular building. So if I were to build and just add this in between, say, two modulars and make this my new road, my road system is now a lot higher than my sidewalk, which is typically never a thing, because we want water runoff from our sidewalks into the gutters, and we want the crown of the road to take the water off the center of the road to the edge. But we don't want to flood our buildings, and we don't want to flood our roads. So we usually have a gutter system on both sides to keep water runoff during rain or whatnot away. So we would have to figure out, if this was the kind of building that we had, how to attach it to this sort of system. I can't make this any lower, but I can make this higher. And by doing so, I could actually just add that underneath it, right? I could just slide a base plate underneath it and have a base plate on a base plate. And now we're going to be half a plate higher because of the stud height, right? So now we could just utilize our old road plates and our new roads, and we could build a whole system and be just fine, right? But if we don't do that, how would it work with our MILS plates? Now, I don't have any standard MILS. I only have my built-up road version. So comparing these two together just does not work. Clearly, this is taller than this. So like with utilizing this system, we need to make this taller. But by making this taller, we can't just use a single base plate. And we're not going to stack up 8 base plates. So I have this as a MILS plate. This is basically in a typical standard MILS plate, right? We talked about before, where it's the base plate, a brick, and then a plate high. And then I've added 2 plates on top, because if I take the base plate and the modular building and set it on this, and it sits on there perfectly, as long as your base plate is not warped, and most of mine are fine. I do have a couple that are warped. And that lines up perfectly the same height as our MILS with our sidewalk system. And that is exactly what I do for my city. And that is the reason why I do this, is because I build up my roads like this. There's an additional cost to doing this versus doing a standard base plate underneath there, or adding tiles or something to make that taller so that it works with the new roads. But this is significantly more expensive than those other versions. All right, so we've discussed the lane width, we discussed you know, the boulevard or the sidewalk, you know, between the two of them. And I just broke it down so that we have just basically the same 32 length with our slopes on either side. So basically this is 40 by 16, not including the extras here. And this is 32 by 32. But essentially this is meeting the same criteria, right? Road for road. So why would we want to do something like this versus something like this? Well, the road, and it comes down to, for me, it comes down to road details, right? And so this is very limited. We can't do much, right? Like I said before, this is limited to only the white stripe or a regular tile. We can't put any other signs anywhere on this tile because, actually this is a plate modified, but because it's only 2 tile, can't really do anything here. We can't build up and do snot in these areas. So this, if other than just being a regular road, which I mean, it's fine. I like it. I mean, I utilize a similar plate, but it's an 8 by 16 versus 16 by 16. You know, it's fine, but we can't add anything additional to this. So our limiter of our road is what is available. Now we can make stickers, right? And we could put a sticker down here. This allows me to, one, I can replace this 8 by 16 by 2 plate, and I can replace it with snot built something, you know. So I can, if I had a handicap parking spot in a parking lot, I could put that in here. Or if I had a railroad crossing, and I actually did try to build a railroad crossing sign, but I did not have enough brick to build it for this video to get it out on time. So you just have to imagine, but a railroad crossing, you know, and we could do a white line across it, railroad crossing, white line. We could replace that with this. It also, you can replace this piece with a railroad track, because the railroad track is actually 3 high, so the rails would stick up a little bit, but that's fine. But it allows you to replace this piece and include details into your city roads that you can't necessarily use on this system. And then of course, I added in my bike path, which you could do on this. You could add in tiles on the sides, but you could not do the white line snot technique on this system because it would be a half plate higher than this, which if you're going for, you know, matching up with something else, that's fine too. But the reason why I go with something like this, and that's the reason why I've gone with the MILS plus the road versus just a straight MILS road, is that allows me to add that detail in there that I can't necessarily get without it. So side-by-side comparison, I mean, I obviously, and I have a lot of these, this is the most expensive version of all the things we've talked about. Even considering this, if I were to buy a mint and seal box version of this, I'm going to pay less for a new one of these than I would for this entire assembly. You know, taking into account all this buying, and you don't have to buy, obviously, you don't need obviously these bricks on the inside. These could just be whatever. And I have like 4,000 2x2 yellow pieces, so it's not a big deal. You can utilize used for those as well. You don't have to be new. But buying all the pieces you need to build this is a significant more cost to you as the user than to buy these. But that is the reason why I build these, is because I can add that detail and I get the flexibility of changing my width, and I have the ability to modify anything I want for my city, because this is wholly owned and controlled by how I design it. Whereas this, I'm limited to expanding beyond it, but I can't really modify it, if that makes sense. All right, well, if you made it this far in the video, we encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Give us a like down below and shoot us a comment what you thought today. But basically, that's what we have. I've already discussed it. These, I think, are useless. That's my honest opinion. You can keep them if you want, and I'll keep them for nostalgia if I want to rebuild these sets, but those are out. I will be building everything I have on MILS plates, but that was obvious to begin with. I was never going to go change my mind and use this, but this is pretty substantial. If you were this is a better start than when you were a child, or when I was a child and I was buying these, right? This is way better than this. So has Lego stepped up their game? 100%. This is way better than anything they provided in the past. But these are no longer effective. They're just not Not gonna work. We have too big of vehicles. We've moved on. Those are gone. But this is available. You can buy these now. This is something you can do. You can easily build this into your system. Is this the best road system out there? No. Is it the only system out there? Also no. Is it the system I'm going to use? Again, no. But that doesn't mean you can't make this yours. Much like I've adapted the MILS standard to my road system, this is nothing like what the MILS standard is as published, but I made this my own. And you could do the same thing to this, or you could go to this route. I mean, it's up to you. It's your city. But I think Lego tried something with this. It's better than it was, and it will continue to be around for quite some time. The downside, and I really wish this wasn't the downside, is I have no use for these 16 by 16 plate modifieds. I can't use them in my current mill system, and I haven't found a use for them. So there's no reason for me to go buy, because essentially everything in here is a good part that I could utilize anywhere else in my entire Lego system, except for these tiles with the white stripe, and I really don't have a use for these 2x4 roof ridge pieces either. And of course, the signs are, a mute point, but everything else, I mean, is easily to be used. I mean, if I were so inclined, I could just go buy a whole bunch of these and sell the pieces that I don't want and keep everything else I need, because frankly, it works just fine. Now, I don't really need the crosswalk piece as it is used here, but I could figure out a way to use it if I wanted to. But for the sake of not making this video of an hour long, I'm just going to say that this is great. This is better. But if this is all you can afford to do, because this is way cheaper, $19.99 versus like $80, and I've used pieces in here, so I'm still probably sitting at like $50 for one of these versus $19.99 for this, and this gets you way farther into something than this does. So yes, I will continue to go down this road because of how my system is designed, but if you're starting out, this is a great system that you could get into and you can expand upon. And again, it's still brick built. Lego learned for years after making these, and people started to go into mill systems with a brick built road system. Lego listened, they saw, and they provided something that I can utilize these pieces somewhere else. I can't utilize this one piece in very many spots. You're not gonna really be able to use it. But these are multi-purpose, and that is what Lego is all about, is basically taking anything and making it used somewhere else in the same system. So hopefully you enjoyed what we did today. I have no idea what we're going to do for the next video, but hopefully you come back and stay tuned. And as always, happy building. Take care, everyone.